It was just a normal day at Sweet Apple Acres. Big McIntosh was going to do a small delivery of apples to Sugar Cube Corner, but before he was about to go, Applejack walked up to him and asked if he could stop by at the market to buy some ingredients for dinner tonight, which he promised to do. When he arrived to Sugar Cube Corner, he talked to Mrs. Cake after he had given handover delivery, and he right after that went to the market to find the ingredients. By at the market, though, he ran into some other friends like Fluttershy, Twilight, and they had a small talk for a couple of minutes also before he had to go look around at the market for the ingredients. But after he found the ingredients that he was looking for, he by accidentally walked into some pony and he immediately apologized. And he saw there was a stallion that he has never seen before in town. And the stallion said, "No worries, no harm's done." And he actually, Big Mac asked him if he was new in town. If he was new in town, and he said, "Yes, I recently moved here about a few days ago from Baltimore." "Well, welcome to Ponyville," he said. "My name is Big McIntosh." And the stallion explained that his name is Bright Sight. Bright Sight actually were quite a talker, but he said, "Well, I had actually a lot of good time here in Ponyville so far. It is very unlike Baltimore. You know, less smaller streets, not less ponies out there, but it gets time to get used when you grow up and live in a big city compared to this small community." Big Macintosh explains that that is only one thing that he could only imagine. But Brightside he said that he had to go because he had some things to take care of at home. And Big Mac said, "Well, who knows? If we run into each other, you're always welcome to Sweet Apple Acres where I live with my family." And Brightside accepted his invitation one day if he would do it. So he left. Big Macintosh after that went back home with the ingredients and even informed Applejack and Granny Smith in the home that he ran into a new pony in town. And Applejack asked if his name was Brightside. And Big Mac said, "Yeah, you met him?" And Applejack explained that he has. And in fact, he works actually as a gardener in Ponyville. He had recently been hired since he moved there. And at least for Applejack knows that he is quite a talker and very, very friendly. He has a very positive attitude, a very positive personality. And he then explained that he invited Brightside over to Sweet Apple Acre sometime if he wanted to come over. And Granny Smith actually didn't mind if they had new ponies, new friends come over for visit, which none of the family didn't mind though. And a couple of days later, Brightside actually went into Sweet Apple Acres when he ran into Apple Bloom and Granny Smith. Both were only has been told how Brightside looked like, so they were at least knew that he was the new pony in town. They actually invited him over for some pie, and even though that he asked if Applejack or Big Macintosh was at the farm, but Apple Bloom said no, they were both in town, but they would probably be back soon. And just about maybe 20 minutes later, before they went to start eating the pie, both the siblings actually right home. And Bright, Bright's side was actually surprised to see that Big Macintosh were home. When he came home, though, but Big Macintosh smiled and said that he always welcome at the farm if he needed a place to stay or if he wanted to have some extra job to do or if he wanted to help. Because they will always appreciate any extra help at the farm, which Applejack explained also. Sometimes when it is apple harvest season, they will always require some extra help, or they always appreciate any extra help though. Brightside said that he will always appreciate if there was anything he could do to help them at the farm. Granny Smith said that since the apple harvest season is only about a few weeks away from now, and they were always appreciate any extra help around the farm at that time. And he said if they need any extra help, they can always rely on him to help, which the whole family appreciate. After that, he thanked them for his visit and had to go back home. Had to take care of some things at home. A couple of days later, Applejack went into town just to look around just to see if there was anything that she could help her friends with. When she ran into Brightside, she was actually saw that he was with a mare. And it turns out this mare who actually had just been recently started dating Brightside. And she actually hoped them a good luck in their relationship, and Brightside thanked her. And for the next couple of weeks, the things between this mare and Brightside seemed to be working. And as the past of those weeks went, the apple harvest season arrived. And as is promised, Brightside actually went to the sweet apple acres to help them at to harvest apples. And the family really appreciated it. It turns out only about a few days earlier, Grant Smith had a bad accident. She had fallen when she tripped on an apple in the house. So she had hurt her hip for a bit. So she couldn't help them. And she really appreciated if Brightside was there to help them. And they all worked so hard to harvest the apples. And even though that Applejack commented to her family that Brightside is a very hard-working pony, and she cannot understand why that he's a such talented gardener and also been a good in harvest apples, but she could see that he's a very hard-working. And just only a few days after the apple harvest season was over, when Big McIntosh was in town just for to visit some of his friends there and also go to market to buy some food. When he ran into Brightside at the market, usually he smiles and always seems to be happy. But when Big Mac saw him, it was complete opposite. It was like something has happened. So he walks up to Brightside, asks him if something had happened. Brightside said, "No, not much. Life, work." And then he was pausing and said, "Well, the only thing that I can mention is my girlfriend just broke up with me." McIntosh was really devastated to hear that. He seems to be very enjoying his relationship with his mare and asked why. It turns out this mare were no longer in love with him, and he took it very hard. He explained this was his first relationship for at least 2 years before he moved to Ponyville from Baltimore. But McIntosh said he will find someone else one day when he's feeling ready. Even though that the bright side smiled, tried to smile and said, "You might really be right, Big Mac. Thanks for the talk," and then he left. Even though that McIntosh was actually feeling a bit hurt to see his friend being broken up with his girlfriend for some reason, but he tried to at least to work it out. But then, only about a couple of days after that, he heard from Applejack that Brightside actually was trying this speed dating in town. The speed dating has their opened their service in town about only about 2 months earlier. And of course, even though Bad Big Mac was still happy to see that his friend is trying to find someone else to be with. But it seems there was no luck though. Even Big Mac has often been asked why he had found some pony to be with. The only explanation he has: work, help the farm, no time to do the being dating, even though that his oldest sister, his younger sister, Applejack, had tried to encourage him to find some pony to be with. But he has always been trying to avoid the topic or even avoid the subject of dating, find a special some pony, or maybe talk about marriage and something like that. But in the end, when he heard that Brightside had tried speed dating, and he thought, maybe I should try speed dating also. And for some reason, though, even he was first hesitating about this idea, but he did ask Applejack if she knows how this speed dating even works. And she gives him about some roughly what she knows about how it works. And she was also surprised when he said, I think I might try it. She was like surprised to see it even that though, but she encouraged him to try it. So by the next day, Big Mac actually went in town since it was a Friday and there was not much work at the farm. He went to the location where this speed dating service was located and when designed, signed up. And just when he was about to, before the service was to start, he saw that Brightside was also there and they small talked. And then, around the time when they were during his service, he was matched with a couple of mares, but he didn't feel any sort of connection or anything. But near the end, something did happen. He was actually matched with Brightside. Both Burgess felt a little bit awkward, or at least surprised that they were even matched. But they stayed that for a while. They just continued small talk to get to know each other even better. But after that, when they both left the service, the speed dating, they were just talking, and then Brightside asked if he maybe want to go somewhere to just grab something to eat, since it was still early afternoon. And since Big Mac didn't had any other plans for the day, so he agreed. So they went to Sugar Cup Corner to have some milkshake or something to eat. And there, Big Mac asked him if he had any luck with to find a girlfriend at this potential girlfriend or date at his speed dating, since he had been tried it for at least a couple of times. But he explained that he hadn't found any pony that seems to be more compatible or he felt some sort of connection to. But for some reason, when he was matched with Big Mac, he couldn't explain it. There was some sort of feeling. Maybe there was some sort of connection that was meant to happen. But even though he said that he couldn't even explain it, maybe there was just maybe there's a feeling that they knew each other already for some bit. So maybe that was the reason. And McIntosh thought maybe that was also the reason. But it was something though. When Big Mac then asked if Brightside would even consider to date a stallion if we wouldn't even find a mare. Even though Brightside were signed up for from a moment when he said, well, I probably would try to give it a try, but I never actually thought about it. But there isn't much any stallion in town I would consider to be as potential boyfriend. And then Brightside actually asked Big Macintosh the same question. Even though Big Mac was a little bit hesitating at first if he even would consider to be dating a stallion. But since Brightside was honest about the same question, so he said, well, no stallion actually been asking me that or never shown any interest in me, that perspective. But if well, yeah, I think I would give it at least a try. Maybe go on one date with a stallion to see if there was any sort of spark. I mean, if there was any sort of romantic connection between me and him. And then Brightside actually said, What about if we go on a date on tomorrow? Big Mac was just shocked that even that's the question, but he then asked, "Are you sure?" And Brightside just nodded and said yes. Big Mac said, "Yeah, why not?" And ideas for what kind of date we were supposed to happen. And he said maybe a movie. And Big Mac thought maybe that was a good idea. So they agreed to meet at the movies around 4 p.m. the next day on Saturday. So that same evening at dinner at Sweet Apple Acres, Applejack just asked Big Mac just around how did this speed dating went. He said that it went well. He was matched for a couple of mares, but never did felt any sort of connection until near the end he was matched with Brightside. Both Applejack and Applebloom looked at each other, were a little bit confused, like Brightside. Applejack just nodded and said, "Yep." And they were about to eat, as Applejack just bought a drink and he said, "And he and I are actually going on a date tomorrow to the movies." Applejack almost choked onto this drink. "What? You? Brightside? On a date? When did that happen?" said Applejack, with a little confused look and a little surprised. "Well, after we went to Sugar Corner after we left the speed dating service, we talked about if we would even want to if we'd consider date a stallion. And he then asked me out, and I said, why not? I said, yes, sure. And just to see if there was any sort of spark between us. Even Applebloom and Granite Smith just looked at each other and both smiled and said, well, if you feel happy about this, though, Big Mac, we will support it, said Applebloom and Granite Smith. Agreed, said even Applejack. Big Mac was actually happy to have his family support if this could be something. That night, before even the Big Mac fell asleep, there were a question around in his mind like, is this could be a sign that he's maybe supposed to have a boyfriend and not a girlfriend? Since though that Big Mac never actually been dating any pony before, so he was not even sure what to even do. But since they were just having a date, one date, to see if there was any spark. So that same next day, Big Mac was just helping around the farm front until 4 p.m. when he went into town. Brightside was standing outside this movie theater, which was waiting for him, and they gave him a hug and went inside. They both decided to watch a comedy movie, and they actually had a great time. Even afterwards, when they were left the movie theater, they was just laughing, talking about the movie, what was good of it, what they thought about the characters. And then, Brightside asked, so, what do you think about the date so far? Did you enjoy it, or do you maybe want to go out again? He was a little bit hesitating though because he didn't know exactly if Big Mac would say yes or no to this. And even to his surprise, Big Mac said, "Yeah, actually, I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I actually would like to go out with you again." And so for next couple of days, they actually went on different dates, like back to movies, having a picnic together, even had a dinner at the Sweet Apple Acres. And soon enough, they were official dating. And his family was still supported, and even his friends. And even back home in Baltimore, when he, Brightside, had informed his family back home that he had found a boyfriend. They were also supported, but they were shocked that their son had found a boyfriend. Because only about shortly earth before then, they were at least aware that he had a girlfriend, but he had also informed them that she had broken up with him. And now he has a boyfriend. At least know that his family was happy, because only when Brightside and Big Mac can only be dating for about 3 months, Brightside's parents came to Bonneville to see their son's new boyfriend. When Brightside explained this to him, He was a little bit surprised and a little bit scared how this first meeting will turn out, if he would make some bad mistakes or being a bad impression to his son, to his parents. But even that his fears were answered to be not as much word in the end, because they all liked him. Because they knew to find out how hard working he were at the farm and at how much is a good delivery to the town. He always been to others for help if they needed any extra help. And of course, Brightside and Big Mac's their relationship only grew stronger for each single day. And after they've been dating for about 3 years, Brightside thought maybe that he wanted to take their relationship to the next level by proposing to Big Mac. So when he and Bright and Big Mac were at the market at the meadows outside town, he then actually proposed to Big Mac, and he said yes immediately. They decided to have their wedding at the Sweet Apple Acres only about a few weeks later, invited some close friends and close family. And at the wedding, though, it was an amazing. They both couldn't have been happier to be with the one they loved the most. And after a while, after their wedding was over, had a big party afterwards, like where every pony were having a good time, dancing, having good food, just get to know each other's families better. And they later actually went on the honeymoon, which they went to Las Vegas for about a week. And they had a great time enjoying the rides, watching some of the magical shows and other things. And even when they came back to Ponyville, Brightside actually moved officially in to Sweet Apple Acres with his husband Big Mac, and only been married for about 2 years. They decided they wanted to have a family of their own. So they actually adopted one daughter and one son from a local orphanage. Even for Applejack, she was very happy to see her brother had gotten married and have his own family. Even Big Mac. Because even long before he had met Brightside, he had thoughts to himself. Would he ever find his true love and even have a family? Even though that some of his friends and families had often asked him when he will try to find some pony to be with. They didn't nagging him, or they didn't bother to keep asking the same question like every single day. That happened like when they just randomly asked a question. Even that was probably could be annoying at some point, but they wouldn't do asking like repeatedly. But now when he had found Brightside, now he would be married with his true love and have a daughter and a son, he couldn't be more happier. Even Brightside, even before he moved to Ponyville, he wouldn't even expect to be end up getting married with a stallion. But when he moved to Ponyville, when he found his girlfriend back then, he thought maybe she could be the one for him. But eventually he discovered that she wasn't the right pony for him. But when he realized that when he's after first date with Big Mac, that maybe he could be the right pony for him. And his wishes came to reality. And even for both them both to even realize at the end, they were meant to be with each other. And this is how Brightside and Big McIntosh found a true love and got a family together. The end.